It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio today. A familiar guest is back with us. You're here at least once a year, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, Sue Ruthaford is in studio today with TIP, the Trauma Intervention Program. We have her come in every year. You send out a press release usually at the beginning of the year about upcoming training.
Yes.
And that sparks us to say, oh, we need to get her in here because it's such a great program.
Yes, thank
And
you.
the volunteer work you guys do is just really great. And we'll get into it today, but it's not something for everyone. But you will tell us what kind of people do line up for this sort of program after we talk, of course, about the program.
Okay.
And who it lines up for and how they can volunteer and get in touch and maybe go through the training.
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
All right. Well, Sue is back, and we're glad she's here. Let's go ahead and first tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the Trauma Intervention Program. Can we start there?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Okay, as you said, my name is Sue Ruthaford. I am a retired nurse, or I had retired from nursing, and even though I've lived up in Yavapai County for 30-some years, I was a nurse that worked down in Phoenix a couple days a week in a high-risk area down at St. Joseph's Hospital. And I was retiring from that and thought, what am I going to do? You know, because I get bored easily. And then I saw this program was just coming to, it was over in the Prescott Valley area. And I saw this program and I thought, hey, I think I'd like to do that. So I joined in on the first day, was in the first training and have been with it since, and that was in 2000.
2000, so you guys have been around for a while. We're coming up on 14 years.
Yes, up to 14 years here real soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the Trauma Intervention Program? Let's get into detail on that.
Okay, the Trauma Intervention Program is a volunteer-based program of well, we're volunteers that are called out by the firefighters, the police officers, the hospital, when there's been a crisis. And the volunteer who's on duty goes to spend the first few hours with the clients, we call them. It could be the victim, it could be the family, the friends, to give them what we call emotional support and practical support. So to be with them during those first few horrific hours. Most often we're called out for death. Anything death-related. It could be a suicide, a natural death, a homicide, anything along that line. But we're also called out for medical emergencies, for structure fires, for sexual assaults, anything where there's somebody who's in crisis. So our volunteers are trained how to talk to them, what to say, what not to say, how to even position themselves with people, to try to provide them some comfort during those first few hours. But they're also trained on the practical support. What's going to happen to them? What's the process of what they're going through? What they need to do next? And they're also their advocate, their liaison with the emergency personnel. So that's what our volunteers do.
And I think that kind of brings it up right off the bat that this is not going to be something for everybody as far as a volunteer program. Because when you say that to me, it's like, I don't think I could do something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a sympathetic guy, but I don't know that I would have the ability to be supportive like that in a way that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And because you're walking into a complete stranger.
Yes.
And a complete strange, well, maybe not a strange situation, because I'm sure in the years you've been doing this, you've seen quite a few different scenarios that take place.
Yes.
But I cannot imagine walking into a homicide and then you've got the mother of, say, a son or a daughter that was killed.
Right.
How do you set yourself up? Okay, if I'm the volunteer, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this here, but if I'm the volunteer and you give me a call, how much information do I have prior to arriving at the scene? And we should probably define just exactly what does crisis mean, because you said homicide, sexual assault, but what if, I know I'm throwing a bunch of questions all at once at you.
That's good.
My wife and I were talking about this the other day because I told her I was doing this interview, and I thought, you know, if I lost you, if I woke up and you were gone next to me in bed, I would be just completely scatterbrained, and vice versa.
Yes.
So is that even a crisis that you would respond to?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Anything. We've gone when they've lost a pet, when it does not matter what it is. It's a crisis for that person. And the emergency personnel are very good at determining, okay, they need somebody with them. So that the officer can do his job, but we're sitting there with them to provide that emotional support and to give them the next steps of what to do. So,
who determines a crisis? Like
well,
you mentioned, even pets.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
So you've actually responded to people who've lost their pet.
Yes.
Of 15, 16 years or whatever.
I was actually called out one time. I was the volunteer on duty at that time, and there had been a fire of a shed. And I remember arriving. It was in the winter. There was snow. And the firefighters are almost apologizing to me to call me out because what had happened was their pets died in the shed. And I said, oh, no, that's fine. We never judge when they're going to call us because they knew these people were in crisis. Well, when I walked up to the family, it was a husband and a wife and a 12-year-old daughter. And I was talking with them. What I found out was these dogs had been kept in the shed and there was heat in there for them. And then that ended up causing a fire. And the gentleman went out and the dogs were screaming and they were on fire. And he had to shoot them to put them out of their misery. In front of it, his daughter saw it and his wife. So it was very traumatic. And I spent several hours with them. Our average call is about 2 hours. But I spent several hours with them. They needed that, you know, and their house didn't burn down. But my gosh, look what happened to their loved pets.
Yeah,
beloved pets.
Wow, that is serious. Okay.
Yeah,
So when I get if I'm a volunteer and I get a call, am I getting a call from you or is it the police and fire? Who contacts me to tell me that there's something going on?
That's a good question. How it works is we have a tip dispatch system, just like 911.
Okay.
So when an officer or firefighters or whatever need us, they go through their 911 system. They let them know, listen, we need a tip volunteer on scene, and then their 911 system contacts our 911 system. So our dispatcher then calls out the volunteer. So we have an on-duty dispatcher at all times. So we're 24/7. So then they will call out the volunteer, but the only thing the volunteer will really know, they may know the type of call. They may know it's a cardiac arrest. They may know it's a death. And they may not know much at all. What they have to know is where to respond and who requested them. So it could be Verde Valley Fire requested them at a certain location in Cornville. And that's all they'll really know. And then when the volunteer arrives, they report in. They always have to report in to the emergency personnel. So they could report into Verde Valley Fire, or they may report into Pike County Sheriff's Office, the deputy. And they will then be briefed on what's going on.
Okay, all right.
And that's how and I find that's best that they walk in, because you walk in with a blank mind, because sometimes if a volunteer's going on to a scene and they know what's going on, they hear too many details beforehand, they start setting their mind up on what it's going to be, and it could be totally different.
This is how I'm going to walk in on this one.
And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to do this and this.
Right.
I'd rather they walk in with an open mind, just as somebody, and then learn it right when they get there.
Okay. And you mentioned cardiac arrest there, so crisis doesn't have to be death.
Correct. Oh, yeah. No.
Because if you've got a husband and wife, and maybe the wife can't take care of herself anymore, and the husband's been doing that, and he's got cardiac arrest, you were definitely needed. Yes.
Well, actually there, I think it was Christmas Eve, and I forget what area they lived in, but there was a gentleman who went into cardiac arrest. We were called to the hospital to be with the wife while she was sitting there with him, and he survived. And they were doing CPR on him on the way. And I don't know if most people realize, but not most people survive a true difficult cardiac arrest while they're doing CPR. That was very fortunate for them. And on Christmas Eve, it was really a good event for them, good outcome.
Right.
But yeah, we have several calls where it could be there's an elderly couple, and one is more the caretaker for the other, and the caretaker one ends up having to go to the hospital for a cardiac arrest or whatever, and the one they're taking care of can't be left alone. So we'll go stay with them, and we try to find their family, or if they're, who else out there can set them up. Sometimes we help set them up if they need to be moved to another facility while their loved one's in the hospital.
Wow. Okay, we have to take a break. Okay. Sue Ruthaford is in studio today with the Trauma Intervention Program. The next training starts February 20th in Cottonwood and March 20th in Prescott. We'll tell you more information about how to get in touch with Sue and get this all lined up. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
One of the areas still maturing in an adolescent brain is the prefrontal cortex. So when we take drugs, we alter key motivational circuits, changing the wiring needed for the cognitive function of the brain, until we can't totally deal with things like memory, thinking things out, and even learning stuff.
The signs are there. So is our help. Visit the partnership at drugfree.org for practical advice on coping with teen drug use.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it, I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Remember when you were younger and your parents said,
"Don't make a mess."
And remember comments like,
"Pipe down."
Now it's time to find your own voice.
Don't pass the ball in the house.
Strike out on your own. Remember the rules, but don't be afraid to take chances. Explore your sense of wonder. Feed your curiosity. Yavapai College. Life explored.
Welcome back to Countywide. Great to have you in studio today. Sue Ruthaford from the Trauma Intervention Program is in studio. Her number is 928-445-4655. That's 445-4655. Or you can go tipofaz.org.
Correct.
And this morning I just typed in Trauma Intervention Program Arizona, and you guys popped right up as the first choice. So there's always that too. But training starts February 20th in the Verde Valley and then March 20th in Prescott. How many volunteers do you have right now?
Right now we have around 70 for the county.
Oh, wow. That's a good number, right?
It's never enough, though.
It's never enough?
It's never enough,
okay.
Because we get busier and busier, so, yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
I hate to hear you say that.
Well, the population grows, and that's what happens, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got 70 volunteers for a couple 100,000 people in the county.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't balance out very well, does it?
And we don't quite cover the whole county. We have two chapters within TIP of Arizona. So we have one on the Verde east side, we call it, and one on the Prescott west side. And so they only have to cover that side. So the volunteers under the Verde chapter cover the Sedona, Verde Valley area.
Okay.
And Prescott over there, they cover the Chino Valley, Prescott.
Quad City?
Yeah.
Black Canyon City?
No, we don't have an agreement with Black Canyon City Fire.
Okay.
But
so you're based through the fires and the police agency?
We have agreements with them so that they can call us out.
Okay.
And there's a lot to do with that. But we do Mayor Fire. So we cover Cordes Lakes, Mayor area. So.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about the training to give the folks kind of an idea how long that takes and what it's about. And before we get into the training, though, one more question I have about that now. Gas has got to be an issue, oddly enough. It seems weird to bring that up, but gas and transporting out and stuff like that. And you said it's 24/7, so we should probably make sure people thinking about volunteering it's possible. I'll get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning.
If you sign up for that shift.
Okay.
So you pick your shifts. They pick 3 shifts a month, and they do 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
So we have a day shift and a night shift. And we have some people that only want to do nights and some that only want to do days. And then they pick during the month when they want to be on.
Some busier than others? Day and night?
It changes. And of course the holiday, is more suicide. So we have different, more you know, those type of calls during that time. But I would say if somebody asked me when's the busiest time, in my mind, it's usually 6 to 7 a.m. because it's the woman who wakes up to find her husband dead next to her. That kind of call.
Okay, so those early morning calls.
Yeah, they wake up and find them.
All right, let's talk training. Let's say I volunteered, I've shown up for training. How's this going to roll out for me?
Okay.
What am I going to be expected to do?
Well, the first 4 days, well, the first 2 evenings and the weekend, the first weekend of the training is we're going to train you on what to say, what not to say, how to be with people. And it's very detailed. We want to make sure you're comfortable. We want to make sure you get it. So we'll go over that. Victimology, what it's like to be a victim. So we're trying to explain to them, here's what they're going through, and here's how you can be an advocate. Here's how you do it. Then the rest of the training, we have another 5 evenings, I think. And those, you're going to be trained by the agencies that we work with and that you have to know. So the fire department comes in. This is how a structure fire scene works, so that they know what's going on, so they can explain, our volunteers can explain to the client the basics of here's what's going on. The law enforcement, how to work on a crime scene, what they're doing, so we understand that. Child Protective Services, Adult Protective Services, we work with them, you know. Sometimes we're called to sit with a child. Maybe they've just come in and done a drug raid at a home and they've taken the children out and they're waiting for Child Protective Services to come pick up these children. We're sitting with those kids. And so those kids are quite traumatized by that event. Yeah. And so we sit and wait with them, but we also have to know Child Protective Services and how they work. So, and Adult Protective Services, Red Cross.
That's got to be really interesting.
It is. There's a lot to know. The funeral homes, the medical examiner, you know, just everything.
You kind of know the ins and outs of all of them, a little bit, at least a little piece of it.
Our volunteers have to know a little bit about a lot, is how we put it.
So they can kind of maneuver their way through the situation.
Yes.
What are some of the do's and don'ts of things to say? I'm curious about that especially.
Well, the number one thing to say is I'm sorry. I say that probably 100% of the time. I'm sorry. You never have to say what you're sorry about. You don't have to say, I'm sorry your husband died. I'm sorry. You just say, I'm so sorry. And then, of course, we teach them that in Spanish, you know, lo siento, so they at least know a little bit of Spanish. Don't ever tell them how to feel. Don't tell them, don't cry. And you'll hear that with people out there. Please don't cry.
Oh, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
And we don't hear that too much anymore. It's going to be okay. But we'll hear, you know, please don't cry. Please don't. Well, anytime you're telling somebody how to react and how to do it, you're taking control of them. And what happens when a crisis occurs is somebody has lost total control of what's going on in their life. So our volunteers are trying to help them regain control. So you're not telling them how to feel and what to do, and you're listening. Listening's a big part of it. So you're allowing them to regain control of their situation.
There must be a lot of scenario play.
Oh, a lot.
I would think there'd be scenario
We do a lot of
playing
role
there.
playing, and a lot.
Don't say that. Oh, don't say that. Right.
Volunteers will come in and will say, the trainees, and will say, you know, we do role playing, but this is a safe place to do it. And not many people like role playing. I hated it myself, liked. By the end, they're saying that was probably the number one thing that they liked.
Yeah.
Was the role playing, because they got to test it. They got to test their words and their actions.
And I'm sure you guys don't try not to do that. Kind of come in this way instead.
We'll go, yes, stand this way, do this, you know, and have them practice it. And we want them to feel comfortable practicing it. It's not like they've got a sharp eye on them, us watching them, but just so they're comfortable with it.
Do you have to take a test? You going to grade me on anything?
The tests are very easy.
Okay, really? According to who?
According to me, right?
Okay. All right, we're going to take our second break. Sue Rutherford is in studio today with the Trauma Intervention Program. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. For more information about the program or to sign up for the training, which starts February 20th in Cottonwood, March 20th in Prescott, call 445-4655. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it, I see it. Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
Remember all those rules you heard as a child?
Do not play with fire.
You'll always remember those rules.
Don't sit so close to the screen.
But now there are times you may have to challenge those rules.
Stay inside the lines.
And bending those rules may even lead to a career.
Pick up your toys, kids.
Imagine all the possibilities. When you venture out to make your life your own, remember the rules, but don't be afraid to take chances. Explore your sense of wonder. Feed your curiosity. Yavapai College. Life explored.
Welcome back to Countywide. We have 3 minutes left of the program. Okay. And again, the phone number for Sue Rutherford is 928-445-4655. Trauma Intervention Program training starts February 20th in Cottonwood, March 20th in Prescott. Where's the training take place?
In the Verde Valley area. It's going to be at Verde Valley Fire District in Cornville.
Okay. The Cornville Station?
Yes.
Okay.
And in Prescott, it's at the hospital in Prescott Valley.
Okay. And then how many hours of training is it?
It's almost 50 hours.
Okay.
By
And
the
it takes
time they're
place
done.
how many nights?
It
days?
goes over a couple weeks.
Okay.
So there's about 10 days involved, or evenings. Most of them are evenings. And they also, the volunteers need to do a ride along with the fire department and the police department because we work very closely with them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to do a couple-hour ride along with each.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That would make sense to have to do that. Okay, so, and then how many hours in the evening? I'm just thinking people who've got kids and they want to volunteer. How many hours of the night will it take?
The evenings are from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And there, let's see, there would be seven of those, I think, and then 2 full days. It's one weekend.
On the weekend?
On the weekend.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad. We crunch it in there.
Do you like it? Do you like what you're doing?
I love what I'm doing. Yeah, I love
What's the greatest reward for you being a tip volunteer?
It's that I know somebody was not left alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I get asked, and other volunteers get asked all the time, how can you do this? How can you be with people on their worst day? And I say, if we don't, who will?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the most uncomfortable thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's very uncomfortable, but it's very rewarding because then I know somebody was with them during this time.
Now, once you say you're there, usually 2 to 3 hours. We've got about a minute left here. You're there for about 2-3 hours. What if I need more after that?
We will connect you with the resources.
Okay.
Our volunteers can do one follow-up phone call with their clients. We can't have them bridging relationships. Otherwise, after a year, they would just be such burden for our volunteers. Sure. We're looking at their emotional health too. Mm-hmm. But we will connect them with the resources for it could be grief support, it could be wherever they need to go. We have over 800 resources for the county.
Again, when I've got this crazy stuff going on in my head and I've had all these horrible things happen to me, I've got you to kind of help steer me in what's going to help me further down the road. Awesome. Trauma Intervention Program, TIP, 928-445-4655. tipofaz.org is the website.
Yes.
Sue, great seeing you.
Thank you.
My first time interviewing you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Great interview.
It was great. You did a wonderful job. That's today's Countywide. I'm Paul David. We'll talk to you again next time.
So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead